Pause to read, I'm not going to bore you with an intro, so let's get moving. Starting off with the first layer, Goats. Goats was a 3-tank, 3-support composition originated by Team Goats, which initially consisted of Reinhardt, D.Va, Zarya, Lucio, Brig, and Moira, but as teams got better, Zen started being the vanilla pick over Moira. With this being said, there are plenty of variations, from Dotes, meaning dive goats, with Winston instead of Reinhardt, or instead of D.Va, Sombra and Mei were sometimes played, and on occasion, Moira and Ana got to see some playtime. Goats was infamous for its incredibly boring playstyle for both players and viewers to most people, especially in AL 2019, where Goats was pretty much the only composition played unless your name was Chengdu. The two dominant Goats teams back in Season 2 AL were the Vancouver Titans and the San Francisco Shock, who both had an incredibly competitive rivalry, but with Shock eventually coming out as the top dog.
And the Shock have done it! They are your Stage 2 champions!
To this day, just to get a relived experience of Goats, Goats pugs are commonly held, but they'll never reach the true notoriety of this composition. Next up is the unfortunate passing away of Alarm. As of a few weeks ago, it was announced by the Fusion that Alarm passed away, with many, including myself, giving condolences to him. Some to note were of Dogmans, Bad Pachamaris, and ATP Overwatch's videos on them, all of which are of course not monetized. Alarm was known for being a pioneer in flex support play, even back in Contenders, and received the Rookie of the Year award in 2020, with many wanting that reward named after him, likewise to Dennis Hawalka. This leads me nicely on to Dennis Hawalka himself, who is widely known as Internet Hulk, being part of Team Envy during Apex Season 1. Everyone who knew Hawalka only had positive things to say, thus the Overwatch League decided to commemorate him via the Dennis Hawalka Award given to the person who has had the most positive impact on the community. So far, since the first season of the Overwatch League, Mickey, Custer, McGravy and Sparkle have won the awards. Next up is DJ Khaled's Zal performance. Nothing much to say, aside from it was a complete flop, and I'll save your ears from hearing it.
Label here and be like, they gotta be laughing hysterically when DJ Khaled says we the best. I know they're all looking at him like, fuck you mean we?
After is Shanghai Dragons' 040 loss streak, which is not only record-setting in the Overwatch League, but also incredibly hard to match in traditional sports, as theScore eSports details here.
But the Shanghai Dragons, now that is a losing streak. You have to get really deep into some obscure traditional sports to find any team that's ever done worse. Across the board, no NFL, NBA, MLB, or NHL team has done worse, with the longest losing streak there coming from the Philadelphia 76ers, who in 2015 lost 28 games straight across 2 seasons.
Thankfully, for the Dragons and for their fans, they managed to turn everything around from going 0-40 to 2021 champions. Following the 0-40 streak is XQC's suspension and ban from the Overwatch League. In short, XQC got a month suspension for a homophobic comment towards Muma after Muma teased them after Outlaws won against the Fuel, and XQC got banned for posting the emote Tryhard7 in Twitch chat after former Outcaster Malik was on screen. Here's a clip of XQC himself reacting to theScore eSports covering his own story.
In the wise words of a good friend of mine, rolled and smoked my doggies.
No, he didn't smoke. Shut your mouth, go back there, second fact. I mean, he would like it, but...
So many games ahead. Love you.
To many Overwatch League fans, this was their first exposure to XQC's toxic side, but it certainly wasn't his first time getting into trouble. On March 9th, 2018, XQC was suspended by Blizzard for the second time in as many stages. This time for using the tryhard emote in a racially disparaging way towards one of the Overwatch League's casters.
I didn't tab into the Overwatch League and looked at who's on screen or whatever. I understand it could look like it, but I post it so very often. I post it all the time. It's literally just how I greet people.
The Dallas Fuel took action, and this time there was no shot at redemption.
The last spam fuel pump.
I just felt all undeserving anyway.
At least for the time being, his time on the Overwatch League stage was over.
Next up is the Blizzard scandal. Since I've already summarized this in my problem with Overwatch video, I'll keep this very brief. Essentially, Bobby Kotick ignores, double downs, and encourages sexism in the workplace himself. Blizzard superficially addresses their issues with tokenism, and a recent update shows Blizzard co-workers were unironically taking breast milk from parental workers. Crazy man. Linked to the scandal is Jeff Kaplan's departure from Blizzard. With the now updated context of the Blizzard lawsuit, many are theorizing, and are probably correct, in that Jeff's departure was caused primarily by Blizzard Blizzard's negligence towards women in the workplace. Still on the topic of Blizzard's poor management is the Overwatch 2 delay in release date, causing and reinforcing the meme that Overwatch 2 will never come out. In conjunction with the prior context, it's obvious to see why people would think this. On a more light-hearted note to finish things is the renowned C9 phase, which viewers, casters and players will say when a team is not standing on the payload or objective despite being capable of doing so, hence they lose the round or game for it. For clarity, this isn't dying at the end of a team fight or being incapable of reaching to it to overtime to keep it ticking. It's about miscommunication or tunnel vision when it comes to getting eliminations, or simply a lack of awareness that you're about to lose if you don't get on the point. The term is derived from Team Cloud9, who are renowned for doing this, and specifically on a match against Team AF Blue where they C9'd 3 times in a match. The last bit to this layer is the Bad Pachimari marketable series, where he made short montage highlights on some popular Overwatch League players, with the montages renowned for their humour in mix with the player performance. Now onto the second layer, which should hopefully be a bit quicker. To get this out the way, any glitches or bugs I consider to be in this tier, such as the Genji ledge dash, which launched him at 1,000,000 miles an hour, any of the many Doomfist bugs, of which there is a 29-page document linked in the description covering the severity and ease of each known Doomfist bug, and any of the overall bugginess of some abilities such as Reinhardt's Earthshatter or Sombra's Translocator. Next up is the meme Jayne Events eSports, which comes primarily from Sideshow and Bren clowning on a tweet Jayne made with regards to the Overwatch League.
52 seconds ago, eSports is the future, but it's not going to invent itself. Jayne is going to invent eSports! What? Are you kidding me?
Yo, Bog!
Big Boss Pine originated back in 2018 when Pine had insane mechanics, single-handedly carrying teamfights that no other player could.
Widowmakers would go for this play.
Yeah, but Pine would.
And he just absolutely nails it here. Even the machine gun, what a flick! And
you
another one.
This very high expectation on Pine did eventually drain him out mentally, as long as being a hitscan player in a GOATS meta, on which he would eventually speak out on these issues publicly. Flutter as meta started becoming popular throughout 2020 when Flutter joined the Dragons and got MVP of the season. J-Lograt or J-Log is a common term for when former and current Houston Outlaws player Jake plays one of his signature heroes, Junkrat, a commonly niche hero for his cheats potential. AKM Blade originated when former Dallas Fuel player AKM played Genji on Temple of Anubis Attack and managed to finally get his blade in 3 minutes and 45 seconds into the match. His Action eSports briefly covering on why this was so appalling.
AKM, who was playing as Genji along with FX Tracer and OG's Winston, only managed to get 1 Dragon Blade during the entire attack. 3 minutes and 45 seconds to be exact. AKM was 15 seconds away from not even charging a single ultimate. This in of itself is a significant feat, so let's break it down. The ultimate bar passively charges 1% every 3 seconds. This means an ultimate bar will charge to a full 100% in 5 minutes if the player deals no damage. AKM filled the blade in 3 minutes and 45 seconds. That means he did less than 400 points of damage the entire attack as Genji.
Also note that Action eSports themselves made the video in exactly 1 AKM blade, which is a pretty neat touch. Prophet middle finger is just when Prophet showed his middle finger on camera during an Overwatch League game, receiving a $1,000 fine.
I mean, really sick fire play. Prophet. Whoa! Whoa! I did not see that one coming.
The Seagull handshake is when Seagull got interviewed by Caster Malik, and they had such an awkward handshake that it ended up making it on Jimmy Fallon, and PewDiePie had reviewed the clip from the show.
First of all, this clip is amazing. I feel bad for Seagull though. I'm sure he's laughing at it in his grave because he's dead. You can't survive this cringe.
Much for your time. And we're going to send it back to the desk right now. Oh, you, all right, look at me. Shake my hand. Yeah, I'm not going to leave you hanging. I'm not going to leave you hanging.
In case you missed it, let's get a close.
If Jimmy Fallon is laughing at you, that's how you know you messed up.
That's the... I guess video games help with the hand-eye coordination, but not hand-hand coordination.
Good joke, Jimmy. Who wrote that for you?
Moving on to the J3 bug. Basically, players have started trolling J3 in their games by popping ultimates in front of J3 to remove the quote-unquote bug on him, and it got so big that J3 himself ended up making 2 montages gaining over 1.2 million views collectively of people shattering, beating, doom-ulting on him, or on his dead corpse.
Yo, J3! Baba Wait, there's a bug, there's a bug, there's a bug, there's a bug, there's a bug! Okay, that's interesting.
Overwatch League on Jimmy Fallon. With this, San Francisco Shock player Super and former player Sinatra ended up being interviewed by Jimmy Fallon after they won the 2019 Overwatch League season. Onto the penultimate thing to mention, which is players reaching 5,000 SR. The main 3 players being Evermore, a Korean Hog player back in Season 3 and 4, Kalios, former Boston Uprising and now current Washington Justice player, and Factor, a console Farah player. Lastly, to round off the second layer of the iceberg are the Kefri accusations. Arguably, one of the biggest cases of drama that surrounded Kefri was his and his team's accusation towards aimbots, who he didn't actually know was aimbots in the game, and aimbots had ended up milking the drama for views and misleading his audience, with Kefri making a response video garnering over 250,000 views. However, even though that case was more in Kefri's favour, there are a ton of accusations he made, decreasing Kefri's credibility and his own reputation. The last thing which I thought I'd add in last minute is the Super cosplay. This is just Super, main tank from the San Francisco Shock, dressing up as Natsuki from Doki Doki Lit Club, and more recently, Tifa Lockhart from Final Fantasy. I won't make any further comments, since, in the wise words of Jose Mourinho,
if I speak, I am in big trouble. In big trouble. And I don't want to be in big trouble.
Now onto the third layer, Valiant's implosion. This is when Valiant had essentially ditched their entire roster at the end of the 2020 season, signed on a bunch of random, unknown Asian players at the last minute, destroying their fanbase, finishing 0-16 in the regular season in the APAC division. When they announced their original roster back at the start of this year, they got ratioed by a ton of Overwatch players, from those who got ditched by the Valiant, social media managers, and even XQC weighing in on the replies. Agility's in and out scandal. A few years ago, Agilities, who was on the LA Valiant, was benched onto the sister team of the LA Valiant. This sister team was for players to grind back their spot on the main roster and to encourage the main roster to not get complacent. However, this resulted in team tension and more unnecessary pressure, resulting in the opposite effect intended. However, Agilities was given another shot at the main roster, but the drama comes in when Noah Winston, former CEO of the Valiant, had a conversation with Agilities in a car, by an in and out, heavily implying that this was Agilities' last chance. His Akshon eSports showing the clip, as well as some backlash due to the obvious ethical concerns of broadcasting a player's future publicly.
The scene unfolds in a dimly lit car as Agilities and Noah Winston are having a discussion. Agilities, then 18 years old, is informed that he is getting a chance at returning to the main roster, as he had hoped, but Winston heavily implies that this would be his one and only shot.
So you understand that you're going to have a shot at the main roster again. Yeah. But to be transparent with you, like, this is the shot, right? Yeah. And so I really hope that you go into this giving it everything you can and really working as hard as you possibly can and showing everyone how hard you're working and how much you're learning from Coach Moon, because this is the shot. If this doesn't work, it's going to be really hard to kind of build that bond up again.
The in and out moment became a meme referenced both in and out of the Overwatch community. One of the most iconic parodies was made by the Philadelphia Fusion, who featured similar dialogue to the original interview.
Your walkout game is like Shanghai walks out happier than you. It's got to be the worst walkout in the league.
Since the in-and-out incident, the Valiant have gone through several roster changes over the seasons, a new set of colors, and Noah Winston has since stepped down from holding a managerial role at the company.
What makes this even worse is that Noah Winston doubled down, showing no regret for broadcasting this clip, and that LA Valiant had full legal rights to portray or broadcast any clip as is written in their contract, and Agilities later himself said he would have much preferred for the clip to remain private. Next up, Zephyr the Scrim God. Zephyr gained the nickname from his apparent performances in scrims when he was with the Seoul Dynasty and in trials with the Florida Mayhem. Even Overwatch creator ATP Overwatch had a Church of Zephyr channel in his Discord. Speaking about ATP, he unfortunately made the choice to shut down his Discord after himself believing that he was incapable of moderating and managing a server, alongside feeling that he couldn't reach peace. A few months before the ban, I was talking to ATP in DMs, and I firsthand saw the trolling that was going on in his Discord and how much work he and his mods put into it, so ATP really did try his very best to make things better, but now it is what it is. Dividing also had his Discord shut down. I would show some tweet of him showing this, but unfortunately I couldn't find anything. Jayne vs Chipsa. This was a drama regarding Chipsa signing to the Philadelphia Fusion in the 2020 Overwatch League season, which Jayne spoke out against publicly since he felt that this was solely done for marketing purposes and perhaps some nepotism. Here's a clip from Chipsa reacting and responding to a Twitter video Jayne put out.
There's so many tier 2 players that aren't paid. There's guys that are sacrificing so much to try and get a chance to go professional. And playing hard, winning tournaments, getting results, and they're not getting these positions.
Okay.
So, yeah.
And this is my fault. He's literally
they don't really even take World
complaining
Cup that
about
seriously.
exactly
guys, the
what
people
he
who
got
aren't in
his
the
career
Overwatch
to
League,
do.
Those guys kind of
His
see it as
career
their
was
opportunity
based off
to
the
get
fact
into the
that he
Path to Pro,
coached plat
because the
players
Path to Pro is
to
so shit.
Diamond,
Because the
and he
Path
got
to
picked
Pro
up
is so-
to an Overwatch League
such,
team
like, in
as a
such trouble
coach.
right
Like,
now
what's
that
the
people are
difference?
trying to get
Clockwork Vendetta. This was a contenders team that came out of nowhere during the GOATS meta, since they managed to beat even Overwatch League teams with their really unorthodox hog-made Torb comp. YouTubers such as Akshon eSports, Your Overwatch, and even myself had made videos on either why their composition worked so well or why they fizzled out into thin air. My video was covering the latter and the tragic aftermath of Clockwork Vendetta, which Minimi, one of the former Clockwork Vendetta teammates, had left a comment on my video saying what actually happens. Chad arming. This was a common phrase used back in the 2019 Overwatch League season to describe arming, who was primarily a wrecking ball player for the Chengdu Hunters. Essentially, because every team was playing GOATs, bar arming and the Chengdu Hunters, the fans always appreciated a match from the Hunters as it was something fresh to watch, and since main tank is often seen as the dominant alpha male type role, as seen with phrases such as main tank defense, that's what the nickname Chad arming primarily comes from. There's even some memes that arose between Bumper, the apparent best main tank at the time in the GOATS meta, and arming. Lastro. In short, Lastro had left some pretty inappropriate comments during a live Overwatch League match and received a fine, along with Rascal, who followed up his comments.
Rascal saying big dick in the chat.
Did he say big dick?
Yeah.
No, I'm making it. Oh my god. Idiots they can see on stream. I don't see any.
Idiots they dream.
See on stream. Holy shit. Big dick. sorry. Yo. Big dick, bro.
I'm done, lol.
Hector's sleep-deprived Owlcast. On one of the Overwatch League matches last year, being the London Spitfire versus Shanghai Dragons, Hexagrams, one of the casters of the match, had said some pretty harsh slurs towards the Spitfire.
And then essentially Dragons come in and do dumb shit. He did a bunch of dumb shit and London lost that. No.
After the match, Hex released a roughly 1,000-word tweet longer apologising and explaining the situation, receiving a ton of support from the community. Frito insider trading. So this is actually very recent and was sparked by Frito and a bunch of other content creators being invited to a meeting with the Overwatch devs to learn more about the future of Overwatch. For more information around the situation, I recommend watching my last video linked in the top right. But in that whole situation, Frito had tweeted out that he was buying Activision Blizzard stocks, either as a joke or not, which people like Nyan Socks called out as insider trading, as Frito was buying stocks based on non-public information, meaning he could buy low and sell high with really high confidence. That tweet has now been deleted as insider trading is illegal. Lastly, in this third layer is the Cheese It Grooves interruption, which was actually put forward by one of you guys in my YouTube community post asking for suggestions about what to include. Simply, this was just one of the former sponsors for the Overwatch League interrupting a team fight live in the Overwatch League. Classic NA production.
London ready to go, 5 ultimates, and they get a pretty nice isolation on that wall.
Well, the Bank of London might be, the Bank of England might be quite empty. And there's a big beat.
Another last minute addition to the third layer is the Super and Space Sigma rock jump. Essentially, there was this spot in the practice range which was almost impossible for Sigma to jump across, but Super, Apply, Space, and some more players eventually ended up making the jump. In fact, Bad Pachamari just said that this was the most memorable moment for him in Overwatch this year. Here's the reactions from Super and Space respectively.
Everyone pause, bro. The go is here, bro. The go.
You got it! You got it!
You got it?
Wait,
no way. No way. What?
Yeah.
Flip it, ship it. No way. How'd you get it, bro?
What the?
Baba. Baba Bowie.
Holy sh!
Baba Bowie.
Yo. Wait, you guys are cracked. What the fuck?
What the?
Back to back. Bro. It's triumph. Oh, I hit it! I hit it! Let's go!
Baba Bowie.
Let's go! Let's go! Let's
Baba Bowie.
go! Holy sh!
Baba Bowie.
Let's go! Let's go! Let's
Baba Bowie.
go, baby! Me and Apply have been in the trenches for 7 hours doing this,
Baba.
bro.
Onto the fourth layer. First up is Samito being fired from the Florida Mayhem as a content creator. This was because Samito had told someone in his match to game end himself, and yes, that's a euphemism, to prevent that scary yellow symbol. Samito had followed up with an apology, and you could search Samito apology into YouTube, and it would probably be the first thing that comes up. Jayne vs Stylosa, another Jayne drama. This one was less tense than the Jayne vs Chipsa drama, but it's essentially Jayne mocking Stylosa's analysis of an Overwatch League match.
The thing is, London are very, let's just run dive if we don't seem to have an idea, or we just can't.
London has no idea. No idea. None. So they're running dive.
Think of anything to do, so we'll just play dive.
Can't think of anything to do. We'll just play dive. Team of professionals, professional coaching staff. Doesn't know what to do, just gonna spam dive.
The problem is there is a hero in the game. And
the problem is there's a hero in the game.
Which completely
Why?
He shuts down dive comp. Right then. So let's take a look.
How?
We've got nothing.
I can't.
Ajax beat. This has a similar arc to the C9, where Ajax was a Lucio player renowned for dying before he beated, and now it's somewhat commonly referred to as an Ajax beat whenever a Lucio player dies before getting his beat off. Shadowburn dance. This is just former Philadelphia Fusion player Shadowburn doing a funny dance, popularized by the bad Pachimari. Sideshow Owl contract. This is when Sideshow actually dissed Overwatch in place of TF2, quote-unquote jeopardizing his Overwatch League contract.
You can't play the competitive mode of Overwatch unless you use a third-party website. Ugh! Because the competitive mode that they added into the game is full of hackers, has the wrong rules, and is just a horrible experience. With no OMR. I meant TF2! It's horrific. It's the worst competitive matchmaking in any game ever. No! I take it back, Jeff! I take it back! I take it back! Don't punish me, Jeff! Don't punish me, please!
The Super Genji rant. This is referring to Super, main tank player for the San Francisco Shock, playing Genji in summer 2020 in the Overwatch League, and someone made a very angry and long tweet about the Shock dissing lower level teams, which eventually became a meme and a copy pasta. Here's Bogur explaining and reading some of it out.
They put Super on Genji, and I guess some fan got really mad about it, so they put entire rant on Twitter about how much disrespect they're showing to the opposing team for putting Super, a main tank player, on Genji. You know what, Shock Rusty? Fucking shame on you. I've known for a long time that no amount of unprofessionalism or respect is more important than fucking memes in this fucking scene, but I genuinely thought you guys above this. If you want to be treated like a real sport, act like it. You want to be treated like grown-ass adults, act like one. And don't a goddamn one of you come at me like this just start with die on the bench.
MCD. Former Spark player MCD was released towards the end of this year's Overwatch League season, which was quite significant since MCD was pretty much a starter on the Spark's roster. Here's ATP Overwatch going over the official tweet from Spark and why MCD got booted off in the first place.
Today, the Hangzhou Spark was made aware of an incident involving MCD's in-game behavior. MCD's actions and comments have broken the stipulation of the player contract. It also goes against the Hangzhou Spark's team value. His action was not consistent with the expectation of the Hangzhou Spark players and staff. As stated, Jung Ho MCD Lee's player contract will be terminated from today. He will no longer serve the role of the Hangzhou Spark's flex support player. Signed, the Hangzhou Spark organization. So the question is, why? And how even? Well, I did some browsing on Twitter and I came across an explanation very quickly in the Hangzhou Spark replies. The explanation comes from Twitter user Giant Omelette, and they said, Chinese fans are upset and angered by a clip of MCD, Hangzhou Spark flex support player, saying F you and effing Chinese to X-Ray, the Chengdu Hunters Academy team main tank during a ranked game.
IOStock's GOATS essay. On Reddit, a few years ago, professional coach IOStocks wrote a 71-page GOATS thesis, receiving thousands of upvotes and quite a bit of recognition. Even to this day, it's still an interesting and useful read, for me at least. Silk Thread Pepe ban. Former Overwatch League player Silk Thread had essentially gotten punished by the Overwatch League just for posting a Phil's birthday man image on Twitter. Here's Bogur covering the story.
Pepe the Frog was banned from Overwatch League back in Season 1 with no Pepe permitting the Twitch chatter at Blizzard Arena. Silk then went and admitted that Violent connived in the month to remove the tweet. I need content to so seeing something tweet for really long. Eventually I was like, oh, tweet, does someone else love Pepe the Frog? Is entirely of my You put a fused birthday man? Really? And you got it banned? Curse.
Last but not least is the Farzix copypasta. Farzix, yet another former Overwatch League player who is now an Overwatch Collegiate, has a renowned copypasta that is almost always to be found in the comments of a Reddit post showing any sort of clip from Farzix. Now entering the fifth layer, Shadow 2K. Shadow 2K was a very popular Genji back from 2016 to 2018, but then he left the game for 2 years due to hand issues. He came back during the summer of last year, made content on and off for almost a year, and has been gone since June of this year, nowhere to be seen. The Violet drama. Violet was just known as being a toxic toxic player, a bit more than your average keyboard warrior, having Twitter drama with top 500 Junkrat player and streamer PvPX, as well as receiving a fine and a match suspension from the San Francisco Shock. Here's Bogur again showing some of the tweets and explaining some of his general toxicity.
Violet toxicity is basically Violet is extremely toxic. San Francisco Shock player in rank. He's extremely annoying and extremely toxic. Kinda comes with the title of being one of the best players. Most of the time they're really toxic, but he is extremely toxic and he goes above and beyond trash talking.
The Unco Hog tweet. For some pre-context to this, for those who didn't know, Roadhog was meta in Overwatch back in August to September 2020. Unco, a former Overwatch League player for the Dallas Fuel, came back to Overwatch, and seeing that Hog was meta, he made a pretty funny tweet dissing the league for losing to Roadhog, supposedly one of the easiest heroes to counter, even saying that Roadhog could fly and he still wouldn't be meta. Shouldergate. This was pro player DPay shoulder checking some players from the Houston Outlaws down a corridor. Here's Avast explaining it on Sideshow stream.
Dude, Shouldergate was the hottest meme of
Go on, explain, Avast, explain.
This random apology came out, and everyone was like, what the fuck? Like, shoulder, like, and they were like, yeah, we apologize, D-Pay was like physical with some Houston guys in the hallway on accident, but all the Houston guys were like, no, D-Pay barreled at us like an ox. Like, he just like saw us in the hallway and leaned in and tried to shoulder check us like some sort of like USSR versus USA hockey game. And like, the Houston guys were telling me this shit, and I could not believe it. Like, I could not believe it. I was like, you guys are over-exaggerating, right? There's no way D-Pay just barreled over you like Nacho Libre, right? Like, there's just no way. And he's like, yeah, he like leaned in, and he just like, he bumped us, and he looked at us like we saw it dead in his eyes, his lifeless eyes, and he was like, I got you good, didn't I? And I was like, no way.
Overwatch League nepotism. This is generally referring to Overwatch League players being picked up based on the connections they have rather than their skill, which is what the Jayne and Chipsa drama was about. However, this year, as teams are prepping for 5v5, meaning they have smaller rosters, coaches in particular have been either getting kicked out or straight up getting ignored. Forstus, a 5-times contenders winner as a coach, Get Amazed, former head coach of the Past Eternal, and Sorda W, a strong contenders coach, and so many more have been either ignored or booted out respectively in favour of player coaches such as Toby. The reasoning for signing former players instead of coaches with more leadership based skills is that game knowledge will be supposedly more important under a new Overwatch, but honestly, after seeing the proven record that some of these tier 2 coaches have, they at least deserve a chance. Moving on to Muffin, the former Boston Uprising player who was accused of sending sexually explicit images to minors, as well as mistreating his former girlfriend Khaleesi. I'm frankly not going to go into any more detail than that. I could very easily make an entire video on that situation, as there's just so much detail to it. Next up is the Argay hit list. Argay is a peak 4600 Hanzo player who got targeted alongside many other streamers by a ton of discords whose sole purpose was to throw their games. As a result, Argay dropped to Diamond and made an entire video on the situation. Here's a clip from that video.
That being the only reason they throw games, this kind of behavior should not be tolerated. We as a community should be more open on addressing this problem. But the thing is, there's dozens of these servers. I have no idea just how many. All I know is that I'm confirmed on 5 big ones, and my friend GamerDoc from Overwatch PD, like, he has shut down many of these discords, but like, obviously you just shut down the discord, the people won't disappear. Throwing other people's games is more mainstream than you even think, and lately it has become even more popular. Like, it used to be really popular back in like 2017, 2018 in the booster community. I was literally like the most hated person by the booster community. There were people that were win trading to boost like stacks of accounts to high ranks, but if I was in the team, they would just throw the game instead. They would literally be okay with losing money as long as I lost skill rating. It was that bad.
Hardy is good. This comes from London Spitfire main tank Hardy, getting a ton of backlash from Overwatch League fans this season, as many people have called him a feeding main tank without knowing much about the game. So when Hardy got signed back to the London Spitfire for next season, this actually caused a bit of drama on Twitter when Overwatch League Opinions, where people can anonymously post their opinions by messaging the account, had tweeted that signing Hardy back was a mistake, and Moose, a British voice actor also into Overwatch, disagrees. This resulted in BenBest directly messaging Moose, saying that he's biased with a sobbing emoji, and then Moose followed up with a quote tweet destroying BenBest. In my opinion, Moose was a bit over the top, but BenBest was certainly in the wrong. Spilo himself, the assistant coach for the London Spitfire, had a few things to say.
And Hardy has been PMA and pushed the team the entire season long, the whole season. And this is despite being completely ripped on by social media nonstop. If you want a clip to throw onto Reddit for anything from this stream, here's one. The guy that has been brutally made fun of this entire season, who mechanically might be our best player up there with Sparker, has been consistently the most positive and hardworking member of the team the entire season. Not at a single moment has there been like, oh, Hadi's not giving it all, or, Hadi's not putting in the work. Despite every loss, despite all the crap that he's been put under, Hadi has consistently given his best effort and played well. He's a victim of the main tank thing where he looks worse than he actually is because he's trying to overperform under pressure, or there's a disconnect.
It's Elk's fault. This is referring to Elk, a former Contenders player for Fusion University, having to sub into an Overwatch League game on the Philadelphia Fusion, receiving flack for his performance despite not playing that badly. Here's Jayne explaining the meme in a bit more detail.
The whole meme about like Elk was the problem was that when Boombox got sick, Elk, who is a main support player, subbed in for Boombox, who is a flex support player, and Elk played pretty well, and they lost those 2 games. So Philly, trying to save face, threw Elk under the bus. They didn't explicitly say that Elk was the problem, but they implied it. And then when Boombox came back into the roster, in the next 2 games, Philadelphia Fusion A dropped a map to the Washington Justice, and B went to 5 games with the LA Valiant. Yeah, the joke is like Elk is a problem. It was like, oh yeah, we stopped losing as soon as we brought Boombox in, but you almost lost to the Valiant.
Kefri Contenders. This is when 3 years ago, Kefri actually played in Korean Contenders, and Jayne reviewed one of his games on Dorado and did an interview, and Kefri followed up with his own review of Jayne's review of his Widow game. On to the 6th layer. Muma is a Fiverr coach. So Muma, former main tank player for the Houston Outlaws, is actually a paid coach you can get right now on freelancer site Fiverr. He charges about 15 Great British pounds for 30 minutes of coaching and has 66 5-star reviews. Elmo vs Kefri. Elmo was another funny voice streamer who sounded like Elmo, a very famous Muppet character from Sesame Street, and insulted Kefri for cheating on his wife on a game of Volskaya.
The letter of the day is F because you should be faithful to your wife. La 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 la. Kefri's a cheater. La 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 la. Accuse your wife of cheating and then cheated on her. Emma loves his goldfish. Kefri doesn't love his ex-wife.
I also believe he got a 7-day Twitch ban alongside some general backlash on Twitter, and I have not heard or seen him since the incident. Hashtag free Fraggy. So for some context, Fraggy was the main tank player for the Philadelphia Fusion back in 2018 and 2019, and he was most known for his aggressive lineup play, which many looked up to. However, Fraggy was essentially benched for the entirety of the 2019 season, which was a GOATS meta, hence he played Ryan a ton, and instead, Sado was played. At the time, many people did not like Sado and actually wanted him to leave the Fusion, including myself, which started the small trend of people saying free Fraggy from the Fusion, as many thought he was the better Ryan player who was just being benched throughout the entire season. Carpe apparently also said that he did not like playing with Fraggy publicly. As a result of this, Fraggy was later traded to the Guangzhou Charge in late 2019, but he didn't receive much, if any, playtime, and later retired from Overwatch in October 2020 to return back to World of Warcraft. Malik versus Defran. This was sparked by Malik leaving the Overwatch League, partially motivated due to quote-unquote unsatisfactory pay, and Defran saying on stream that Malik, alongside a bunch of other casters that had left the league, were overrated and were the Gucci brand of casters. This set alight a whole thread of tweets, of which I'll let Frido from your Overwatch summarize.
Real talk though, don't misinform your fans, man. You don't know my or anyone's situation. Have a little respect, my G. Defran replies, quoting the Nathan Grayson article, rumors have swirled that Blizzard is offering unsatisfactory pay to talent. Malik 4Play told me that. In his particular case, it's true. So Defran asks, is this not true? Malik responds, I never said it was unsatisfactory. I said the number wasn't what I desired. No one knows that number, by the way. That's what was quoted. That headline to the Reddit thread is widely deceptive. Defran kicks back, basically saying that anybody is replaceable, and if they don't want to do it for the amount that they're getting paid, someone else will do it for less. Malik says you're right. Speaking of people getting replaced, you experienced that yourself with the Atlanta Reign last year, but you commenting on the business details and exaggerating with no actual facts is a little petty. Defran replies, exactly, it is a competitive job and people want your job. I know this myself with streaming and the Reign. With Thorin's statement that Blizzard is lowballing their talent, and with this article saying you didn't get how much you wanted, I think it's enough to form my speculations and opinion. Malik responds, look, if I didn't like you, Defran, I wouldn't have bothered saying anything. Every time I've seen you, it's been all good, and I don't think of you as the type to switch up on folks when you get behind your computer. Defran replied, you are right, my dude, my bad. I became what I hated the most. A Redditor. Dun dun dun! Overwatch
NSFW keeping Overwatch alive. Gonna keep this one short, but the second largest subreddit is the one that will get this video demonetized. r/competitive Overwatch, r/Overwatch memes, r/Overwatch League, and r/Overwatch University are all smaller than this subreddit by quite a large margin. Scrimbox. Scrimbox is referring to teams doing very well in scrims, but not doing so well in official matches. Eventually, players, casters and viewers made fun of this almost boy who cried wolf mentality by saying how teams were trying to cash in their Scrimbox, which are ultimately worthless and pointless since it's how you perform in the official match at the end of the day. Snello Forest. Snello, former DPS player for the Philadelphia Fusion, had effectively disappeared from the Fusion, even to their own team. His elk explaining to Avast, a caster, what actually happened with Snello.
Where's Snello?
Okay, so for Season 2 of Overwatch League, when I got to the team house, I asked where Snello was, because he wasn't there. And I was told they couldn't contact him for like 4 months during the entire off-season. And when he finally shows up, he said he was living in the forest in Sweden with his grandmother, foresting in the woods for mushrooms, and was not joking.
You know what? I respect it. That sounds like a pretty good holiday.
No, where is Snello
Oh,
now?
probably still in the he probably went back to his grandmother's house in the forest in Sweden.
So
where he
you're
has
telling
no
me
internet.
that in between him being an esports player, he goes and performs a dramatic fairy tale in the forest.
Lastly, the Red Shell scandal. There's a few different pieces to this, with the first piece being a tweet from SK showing that Red Shell was morally okay with the relationship between a 20 and a 16-year-old. The second part is more tricky and is more alike to the movement situation. Again, I could create a whole video on this situation, but in short, a 17-year-old underage girl, who Red Shell was likely to know was 17, sent adult pictures to Red Shell on Snapchat for $1 so she could buy some pizza. There's a whole list of twitlongers with this drama, with Red Shell deleting his responses to this situation. Speaking of deleted responses, Red Shell had also deleted a tweet defending Sinatra throughout the entire Cleo situation. If you guys actually want to see a video on Red Shell, let me know down below, because nobody on YouTube has actually made a decent hit piece on this guy. Onto the penultimate layer of this iceberg, Spylo's Overwatch League trial denial. In short, Spylo, who's a very experienced contenders coach who worked incredibly hard on Team Sheer Cold, had received an Overwatch League trial. This trial apparently went really well, but Spylo got denied of the job since he couldn't make 2 days of the 11-day trial. Thankfully, he got another opportunity by the London Spitfire and is now an assistant coach for them. However, I have a pretty solid theory on which team denied Spylo unfairly, and I think it was the Toronto Defiant, as I'll explain through the process of elimination. APAC teams are immediately ruled out due to having Asian rosters, leaving 12 teams left. Dallas are a Korean roster, making it 11 teams. Shock are too good and they're not going to ditch or change the coaching formula with Krusty, making it 10 teams. The Vancouver Titans had a similar bruh moment to the LA Valiants, making it 9 teams. The London Spitfire already picked them up, making it 8 teams. With Boston and Paris, Spylo has already got good relationships with the players, and the manager of the Boston Uprising, being Mineral, who I highly doubt is going to screw over Spylo. Mineral is also in Spylo's Discord. Now we're at 6 teams left. The Gladiators are in a similar position with the Shock, and Spylo did do a scouting report on them. The Florida Mayhem and the Justice are Asian rosters, now making it 3 teams. Houston and Atlanta were doing pretty well, and I don't believe they had an adjustment in coaching staff. This just leaves the Toronto Defiant, who are already looking for a replacement head coach as they signed KDG, who was the head coach for the Philadelphia Fusion at the end of the 2020 season, alongside the mediocrity of the Defiant, meaning that they needed someone to step in to help improve the roster, and I'm 95% sure that Spylo got denied by the Toronto Defiant. I will now be wishing them a poor start to Overwatch 2. Moving on to Libero being a crypto millionaire. In short, Libero got hundreds of millions of Korean won from cryptocurrency, and his current job is now as a fund manager, mentioned on Pine Stream. Khaleesi and Six are disingenuous. This is referring to Khaleesi, the Overwatch streamer known for her OnlyFans, and Six, the top 500 Hawk player who is known for duoing and boosting Khaleesi. Again, this could be an entire drama video of its own, so let me know if you guys would want an entire video dedicated to this, but I'll try and summarize the drama surrounding them. Starting off with Khaleesi. First off, Khaleesi was egoing popular Doomfist player Backstab Bud as she thought he was snowing for switching off Doomfist to play McCree, but was actually playing decently well on McCree, even going as far to call him sexist.
I think we just report Backstab Bud for that, because that's kind of weird. Just report him. He was throwing. He doesn't even play those heroes. I don't know, kind of sad. I think I've been nothing but nice to that kid, but he's just sexist. Unlucky.
Backstab Bud tweeted about this rightfully. Six tried to defend Khaleesi, but he got absolutely ratioed by Chipsa. And if you're wondering why you can't see Six's tweet, that's because I got blocked by him, but we'll get onto that. Khaleesi also allegedly left 2 weeks notice as a landlord for her roommates to find another place to live. She also generally likes throwing and allegedly subbotted all the way back in February of this year. She had very unusual bot-like comments in one of her videos and had very unusual sub growth despite not gaining that many views. For reference, she gained about 1700 views with 750 subscribers, and to show how ridiculous that is, I commonly get between 2 and 3,000 views a day, but I only get around 10 or 20 subscribers. She claims that this was all because of her Twitter giveaway, but I highly doubt a Twitter giveaway would cause this much growth. This leads me on to Six himself, who, as I've already shown with Chipsa's comment, Six will endlessly defend Khaleesi. I myself showed and explained Six these screenshots showing Khaleesi was botting, and Six proceeded to gaslight me and act very aggressively towards me. I ended up showing a meme making fun of Khaleesi, showing her ridiculousness during the Backstab bot situation, and I got blocked. Oh well.
Ah, dude!
I can't, dude. I fucking can't, dude. I fucking can't with this shit. I can't. The delusion. The delusion.
There's still quite a lot I didn't include, so if you guys want a full breakdown on these two, let me know down below, and I think it'd be quite fun. The SBB boycott. So SBB, also known as Sabiolby, most well known for his tracer play on the New York Excelsior, had been completely boycotted by all the APAC teams in the Overwatch League. And why is this? Well, it's purely for speaking out against Chinese censorship. Here's eSports Talk covering the situation with a few tweets.
And it seems in general context, he was speaking out against unlimited free speech on platforms such as the Chinese streaming service known as Douyu, along with comments made around Taiwan and Hong Kong on the sensitive issue of a unified China, like that he can't comment about Taiwan or actually Hong Kong issues, or he gets in massive trouble, to which eventually he also says one of his managers allegedly told him if he wanted to quote unquote earn the Chinese money, you have to become a Chinese dog, to which after his remarks, the Hunters, the Charge, the Dragons, and the Spark are now supposedly actually blacklisting all activities.
ELO Guardians. This was an almost secret, cursed team with Dante and Co Sinatra, with the Wikipedia page being completely empty when it comes to the ELO Guardians. Here's Bogur uncovering a match of the ELO Guardians.
Team ELO Guardians. What is this? There is nothing. ELO Guardians. What is this? Dante, Sleepy, Unco, Red Sea Zoms, and Sinatra. What is this? What did I just find? Oh my god, Dante Onorisa! We should have never looked so deep.
Lastly, Jayne coming out as being diagnosed with bipolar disorder. In mid-July 2019, Jayne had released a now deleted twitlonger detailing his experience on the Dallas Fuel and the backlash from the fans as they expected a better performance. Throughout the twitlonger, he mentioned he got diagnosed with bipolar, with a tweet he made later mentioning it, alongside a Reddit thread detailing his comments after he came back to streaming in September of 2019. Onto the last layer of this iceberg. If you've made it this far, it'd mean a ton if you could sub to the channel, as I'm trying to hit 7k before 2022. Anyways, starting off with the Philadelphia Fusion finding a corpse in the hotel. I believe this was back in 2018 at the championships, when Philadelphia Fusion followed a bad smell in the hotel and found a homeless dude guarding a dead body. This links into the Overwatch League book, which I'll save for last. Overwatch NFTs. Now this isn't anything big yet, this is more so in reference to Blizzard possibly adding NFTs to Overwatch. My thinking for this is knowing how scummy Blizzard is as a company, alongside Ubisoft, another company known for their action FPS games, adding NFTs to Ghost Recon, I certainly wouldn't be shocked if Blizzard ruined Overwatch 2 with a whole bunch of NFTs. Thankfully right now, on OpenSeas and NFT Marketplace, the best Overwatch NFT I could find was Eric Cartman from South Park as Roadhog. KSI playing Overwatch. If you didn't know, world famous rapper, boxer, YouTuber and sideman KSI actually used to play Overwatch back in 2016 and 2017. Considering the stark contrast in content style and theme back then to what he does now, this was pretty interesting to look back upon. Sparkle Muslim. I'm just going to play a clip from Bogur covering this in his own iceberg, and hopefully it should be self-explanatory.
Man, Sparkle is so f***ing hilarious.
Baba Booey. Baba. Baba.
Assalamualaikum. Oh my
Baba Boo.
god, curse.
Dream Casper, a 21-year-old Overwatch League player who was talking inappropriately with a 14-year-old. Self-explanatory. PewDiePie covering the Ellie scandal. So for some context, Punisher, a top 500 hit scan player, pretended to be a girl called Ellie. Ellie had received a ton of traction online for hitting rank 1 out of nowhere and being one of, if not the first woman to do so. In fact, a contenders team had signed Ellie on, however, Aspen, a female content creator and streamer, had exposed Ellie for not being a real person, and this story got so big that PewDiePie ended up covering it, and here's a short clip of that.
The internet and so many of these news articles were so desperately trying to defend Ellie, without any proof of Ellie even existing or being a person. People wanted Ellie to be real so desperately so they could have a woman being harassed and run that as a headline. You know, even after the story is out there, they still run the story that it's a female gamer. First, a fast-rising female eSports star was threatened. They still go with the same narrative.
Last but certainly not least is the Forbidden Overwatch League book. This has been added in last minute to the Iceberg after recently discovering Austin Moorhead's book on the Overwatch League called Young Guns, Obsession, Overwatch and the Future of Gaming. This is how the scoop on the Fusion Hotel Corp situation got released, and there's a ton more information inside. A Reddit post summarizes key highlights of the book, from the misunderstanding of toxicity to the lack of gender diversity and the justification of big sponsors coming to esports, as millennial and Gen Z viewing numbers are decreasing for traditional sports year on year. There's ton more nuggets of information that most people just won't know about, and you can buy the book right now on Amazon. Keep in mind, the book only covers the first 2 seasons of the Overwatch League. Well, that's about it for the video. Again, if you enjoyed, it would mean a ton if you could drop a sub. I used to be solely educational based, but now I'm doing a bit more experimenting with the type of content I do up until Overwatch 2. But with that being said, have a Merry Christmas, and until next time.
And I say, hey, living like we're renegades.